You join me in my latest project, which is the Mercedes SL500. This is a 1986 car. You've probably seen it knocking around in the background if you've been watching the Porsche episodes. So like the Porsche, this is a car that I know a little bit because I bought it off a friend. I have all these delightful friends who are getting rid of their old cars which are costing them too much to run. So I'm picking up the pieces as I go, and I just can't resist a really stunning car like this. When you talk about head turner, this thing, I've done about 150 miles in it so far, and everyone turns around and looks at it regardless of age. It's a real gem. Now obviously it's not without its problems, otherwise I wouldn't have it. There's a reasonable list of things to do on this. However, I'm driving on the road, it's got an MOT, so it's roadworthy and it's safe, which is great, and it means I can test drive it, find out what's wrong with it, and start building a list of things to do. So the biggest issue with this car is the bulkhead. These cars are notorious for having rusty bulkheads, even though this one, being a 1986 model, is completely galvanised. The bulkhead apparently wasn't galvanised. Previous to 1986, the body shells weren't galvanised, obviously a lot more rust because of that. So the bulkhead is the biggest job. I've had quotes of 10,500 plus VAT and more. There's a decent amount of work in that, obviously, which is why it costs so much. The way that it's mostly done is that you remove the dashboard, cut the old bulkhead out and place a new one in there. That's a job that I may or may not take on myself. It's quite a big drama. One of the other consequences of having a rusty bulkhead is the fact that water leaks through when it rains and fills the footwells with rain, which is obviously not great because then we'll have another rust issue. The other consequence is the heating is either full hot or full cold, there's no in between. So it really has to be dealt with as a priority. Surprisingly, it's not an MOT failure because you can't see it. It's not a structural item apparently, so it does pass MOTs no problem, and it is hidden, so you wouldn't necessarily know on first look. Other issues with this car are less major to fix, I hope. Famous last words. So there is a misfire that's not permanent, it's a little bit hit and miss, and sometimes I'll get in this car and drive it and it will run perfectly smooth. Other times it just misfires constantly from the time you fire it up to the time you finish, almost regardless of how many miles you do at the time. So that's going to take a little bit of research, and I'll see how I got with that. Also, the cruise control, minor thing, cruise control doesn't work, so I want to fix that because, as always, I want this thing to be turnkey, off we go, let's do some road trips with it. Another item on the list is these windows. When you close the door, the window doesn't drop, so you end up with sort of a crunching of the glass against the door slam, the door shut area, and also it's not sealed particularly well. You may or may not be able to hear there's a bit of wind noise, which only minor, but I know it shouldn't be there, so that needs looking at. In terms of generally driving this thing, it drives real nice. I mean, it feels like peak Mercedes-Benz, which it was. Needs new pads and discs on it because they're a bit shuddery, so that's an easy thing to solve normally. In terms of just riding along here, there's not really any knocking or anything like that. It really does run sweet. The previous owner put this some kind of isolator on the battery, so you could literally remote control and isolate the battery, but I'm going to take that off because I don't trust these things. Okay, now I'm going to tape this up here because there is a sensor there, which one would imagine is doing a job for a reason, and that's probably not assisting matters, but I don't know whether it's particularly critical, but we'll do it anyway. So there's an issue with the cold start on this car. Done a bit of research, and there's a few common problems, but I thought I'd just demonstrate it to you now. So if we just it just turns over, doesn't start. If I pump the throttle a little bit, which to be fair it says in the instructions one pump in really cold winter, so I'm going to give it says. So one pump. One pump gets it a lot better, but really what I need to do is wait for the starter to stop. Give it lots of pumps, gets it going, a bit more, and now we have start. See? Anyway, you get the picture. You keep doing that, eventually it starts, then you have to let it warm up because you can't give any acceleration because it will cut out. So we need to try and solve that problem. Firstly, do you like my gloves? I've given in and followed the trend, because actually it's -2 to 6 over here in the UK, and going outside washing my hands every half an hour is really taking its toll, so I'm going to give it a go. Now, in terms of the cold start issue, from doing my research, the most common problem is this, which is a valve a cold start valve, and the idea is it sprays more fuel in when you start it from cold, and they can go wrong. There's also an automatic air valve somewhere which controls how much air goes in. That also on cold start lets more air in, so more air, more fuel on cold starts. So the first one to check is this. If this is working, then I need to find out where the air valve is and test that as well. Right, so in theory now, I try and start the engine and tons of fuel should gush out of there. Should be quite high pressure. Now I'm guessing on the basis there's no fuel in there, it doesn't work. Bone dry. I'm just applying a bit of power to this just to see if anything happens, and sure enough, it's clicking away. Just put a bit of something in there, a bit of brake cleaner. Right, filled it with brake cleaner. That would indicate there's no signal, and therefore more research required, I think. Just as a final check to see this valve working, I've just got this battery. I'm just going to, I've built the pressure on the fuel. I'm just going to open it. Yeah, fuel's spraying out lovely there. So it's definitely not that switch, it's definitely not that. Okay, so we've definitely got no power going to this plug here, so I would assume that's why it's not working. So we need to go further back, find out what tells this plug to activate and try and understand what's going wrong. Been battling away trying to sort of bypass the sensors to get this activated, but not getting anywhere at the moment. There's a sensor on the, I think, that connects to the water pump or something, and there's also a sensor that connects to the fuel injection pump, and I've tried bypassing both, still no joy, so none the wiser so far. Some of the research I've done is pointed towards these. There's two relays which control the fuel, and they also control that valve. So as they're cheap, I'm going to replace these first, see if that solves the problem, because otherwise I'm into some serious electrical gremlins. Give it a whirl. Idle speed control, not that one I want. Is that the same? Okay. Right, I'll change that to the one I've got as a replacement. There is another one. Okay, so we've got visibility now. Our friend the immobiliser is here as well, so I know it's disconnected, but it's a load of old wires. Look here, there's probably been a car phone in here at some point because there's holes in the dash. So yeah, a bit of tidying up to do, but the dash has got to come out anyway because of the bulkhead, so I'm not too bothered about what mess I'm making. That one's in. Okay, let's give it a whirl. Nope. Well, this needs a bit more time, a bit more effort. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get it on the ramps. I'm going to put a big list of jobs together. I'm going to start going through them one at a time, rather than doing it piecemeal, changing something, testing it, changing something, testing it. I think we just need to have a whole approach to the car. Start at the beginning, go through the whole process, then go for a test drive, see what we've got left to do. So that's going to be it for today. I hope you're excited about this new project. I certainly am. And if you've got any suggestions, please leave them in the comments. Please do make sure you like, subscribe, etc., etc. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.